Hello? Hello? Where is everybody? I've just been looking for the podcasters all day. Where could they be? Don't they realize it's Halloween? It's time for another adventure, and I have a deliciously evil one planned for them this time. But I can't find them. They should remember. After all, this is our 5th time doing this. I wonder... Wait. Our 5th time? This couldn't be... the end of the series? They wouldn't do that to me! Not after all the torment and torture I've put them through! Well, at least hopefully they won't do something lame like a rap party episode or something like that. Well, obviously I'm not wanted. I shall have to head back to my underworld. I wonder where I left my Cheetos.
Hey guys, the door's open. Let's go ahead and let's just meet in here. I guess this should work for now. I guess.
Yeah. Well, what is that smell?
Wasn't me.
Jeff.
Someone open the window, please.
Have you been eating chili again?
Chili and egg salad sandwich.
Okay.
A couple of Cokes, 5 caramel macchiatos, but also I took care of that business before I got in here. I think that smell, I'm going to say, was brimstone. But Mephisto actually smells like sandalwood and cherries, so no, it was me.
I don't want to know how you know that.
We've spent like 4 seasons with them. I think you'd know a man's scent by this time.
No, I blocked that out. I blocked that out with a lot of drinking.
I thought that was just his cologne.
I'm not sure.
That's the excuse this year.
Welcome, everybody. Normally we do this really elaborate crossover where we plan out okay, you're going to be on this show, you're going to be on this show, and we figure out a cool overarching theme of books or a series that we're going to do. And we got lazy. Yeah.
We forgot.
It became October.
I think just life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it got busy, I think is what it really boils down to. I know I have a 5-year-old that's just started kindergarten. I got a remodel that won't... Since I've got a kid going to kindergarten, she brings every childhood disease known to man back, so...
Ooh.
She's been at school for 5 weeks, and she's already had 3 days off, and she has bronchitis right now, and we've got colds all the time.
Good times.
It's the bestest.
She's a sharer.
She is. She shares. All kids share. I went to a fun run at her school, and I was like, I wonder why kids get sick all the time as I watch just kids cough in each other's faces. Look, it's my best friend Timmy.
Needless to say, we all had a lot of things going on. Plus, there's just all this content of TV shows and comic books and novels and everything else that, distracts us from doing things that our fans want us to do, like record good content. So this is what you got, folks. You've got us all here. And who is here, mind you? Well, let's go around the horn and introduce ourselves. I, of course, am Rick from Jeff and Rick Present Unpacking the Power of Power Pack. Jeff, you might as well go next.
I'm Jeff from Jeff and Rick Present Unpacking the Power of Power Pack. My partner in the crime is Rick. Also, I recently listened to the episode of Monday Movie Muckabout that I hosted for Rick as a little surprise. And I said, that's my podcast now. I like it. So, and now let's move on to a Tomb Prince.
Tomb Prince, yes.
Did I say that right?
You did pronounce it in the proper British, French, Gaelic, Scandinavian accent. That was perfect. This is Tim Price, and my Zoom handle on this call has been modified by some mischievous imp of some sort. I don't think it was Mephisto himself. This is not his style. There's some other mischievous imps around here, Rick, who will do things like that. But yes, I'm Tim Price, host of the Outcasters, Batman the Outsiders podcast on the Right On Network, and I'm here to make trouble galore. But yes, busyness has been afoot with my twin kids who are seniors in high school and thus looking at colleges and preparing for college applications and things like that. And so, as you can imagine, yeah, there's a lot.
Tim, I just need to remind you, Tim, if you cry on your electrical equipment, it will void all kinds of warranties and make the sound really bad. So, make sure your tears are outside of the closet.
Okay, pro tip. Got it.
Also, twins are half as much work as having a single kid, right?
The math there does not really work. No. That's not how the math works. It is like having 2 single kids. Not 2 kids, two kids a year apart, or even further, it's like having 2 single kids. So you get double the stress.
That sounds like a nightmare.
You get double the stress in the same time period. So,
you get it over with.
That's the thing. Oh yeah, that's what I'm looking for. That's the one bright side, one bright shining light in the upcoming nightmare of paying for college tuition that I see on the horizon is that it's 4 years and we're done, but it's 4 years of twice the rate of any other kid would be. That's my life.
Yeah, but see, once they both leave together, you can then change the locks and change your name and go into hiding.
Tell them that you're paying for the school of their choice. They go there, and then, move.
I was just going to say,
see.
Tim, with all the finances problems that you're going to have, you might have to get yourself a second job. Have you thought about mowing the lawn or delivering newspapers? I hear it's all the rage with kids these days.
Well, I checked my old comic books, and I see I could make a fortune selling grit. So I think I'm going to do that.
Yes.
That's what I'm looking for. That grit buck's coming through. And with all the helpful advice I've gotten here, I think I'm going to move along and hand off the horn to Kimberly Sedano. So, Kimberly, why don't you...
I'm Al Sedano from Resurrections and Adam Warlock and Thanos podcast, and it's my wife's Zoom account, so that's why that's her name on there.
Oh, sure it is.
I'm experimenting. Who cares?
Hey, we
My
don't
life.
judge.
Don't
We
judge him. Don't judge.
No.
It's
Don't
my
judge.
life. I do what I want.
Perfectly fine.
I said that. It's my life. I can do what I want.
Exactly.
Suck it.
Hell of an introduction, Al. Hell of an introduction.
Suck it.
That's bringing the fans.
I'm not following that. Besides, I don't have the money for it. All right, well, we should go to our last 2 because we got 2 at once. It's like having twins. It's like twins. Except you can tell them apart.
I don't know if that analogy works.
That's probably gonna have to.
That is a fun analogy and also a little creepy.
Well, weird, yeah. It's a weird one.
Hello, I'm John Schaefer-Hames.
I'm Maggie Schaefer-Hames.
We are the Schaefer-Hameses, the hosts of MWC podcasts, the variety of them, Married with Comics, Married Watching Cartoons.
It stands for a lot of things.
It does. We're also on Transformers Chronicles, and we do the Rod Pod as well. And right now, we're here talking spooky season.
Spooky.
But you forgot the most important one is married weaning canines.
Married weaning
Oh,
canines.
we're past that
We're
phase.
past the weaning.
Thank God.
She's sleeping now.
Yeah, she's sleeping right now, so we're not going to invoke her name. We're just going to let her sleep.
Yep. We're going to try to keep it quiet and speak at a nice tone until I get really excited and loud and ruin everything like, every other moment of my life.
So what, 4 minutes? Do we have a Deadpool
We can
on
take
this
a
one at all?
bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right rules?
Start a
We
pool.
can start pool, or we could just start.
I got 3
cheering up.
minutes.
I got 4 minutes. 3. Anybody got 3? 3. We got 3 in the corner. 2.
Do I
2
get to
minutes.
bet
2
on
minutes.
this?
Now,
Because
the rate we're going right now, I'm going to go ahead and go for 2 minutes because, I think that we're going to wake this dog up pretty fast.
Yeah.
I got faith. 4:35.
The one thing about the dog is I'd rather be concerned about my dog waking up than having to send twins to college. She's not going to go to college. She's already living her best life.
I don't know. She's pretty
What
smart.
about obedience school?
Can I trade?
Free on YouTube. Heck no, we like our puppy.
Which also means if you like your puppy, you hate Tim's kids.
Yeah, that's what we need to talk about.
Lord.
That sounds like some sort of Mephisto-sponsored Twilight Zone-esque thing. Oh, and now that you've said it, it must happen. Wait, we didn't say anything.
And to be fair, if the dog's going to college, the college is then obviously paying for the dog
is
because that's
impressive.
pretty damn impressive.
Hey, there are no rules that say the dog can't go to college. That's all I'm saying.
Airbud rules.
I want to also recognize and pour one out for one of our friends who was supposed to be here tonight to join us, and that is our good buddy Sean Ross from Never Ending Reading Pile podcast. He was supposed to be here, but he had a sick kid, so that's what happens, unfortunately. But the rest of us
Salute.
are here. And what are we going to talk about, guys?
I have no idea.
Yeah, we didn't get that far. We
Yeah,
just
no.
agreed to.
I thought that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was,
Okay, we're just here to say hi. I was told that we needed to bring like a reading pile or something about books to talk about.
That was the individual task that we gave you. The
Oh,
rest of us didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
So.
I was
just
half
you.
paying attention anyway. That's when I read
That
it,
was
so
all. that
whatever.
was-
Just for
yeah,
you.
we said you were going to bring a bunch of books to talk about, Rick.
Exactly.
You were going to bring them, and we're just going to make fun of what you bought.
were we supposed to bring beer? Because
Oh, I do have beer. Well, I've got myself a drink.
As do I.
Yeah. Okay, so I brought Locust Cider's Seasonal Chai Hard Cider. It felt
Nice.
very festive for the season. And I saw this at Costco, and I was like, well, that sounds interesting. I haven't tried it until tonight, and it is a chai cider beer, and it is really good.
Nice. I love chai. I
try
love
that.
cider. And I love beer. Those have all the words I like.
The taste is nice and spicy, so that's what I am drinking tonight. Who's next?
Well, I'm drinking an old standby, which is Widmer Brothers Hefeweizen, an American Hefeweizen, where I have not had it in forever, and I've been saying I got to go to the store and get some, and so I went and did, and then I had it, and I said, "Oh, nostalgia, you've once again let me down." I was very sad. And then I said, "Wait, I put some citrus in there, and it gets real good," so I've been splashing some lime juice in it, and mwah, yum, yum, yum.
I had coffee.
you had coffee. All right. Since it's a Tuesday night and a school night as well, I'm back in college taking classes. I had to buy state law and local ordinance. I'm drinking a 16-ounce Pabst Blue Ribbon, who's been milking that State Farm first prize for a good 150-odd years now, but friend of hipsters and poor people since 1844. Pabst Blue Ribbon it is.
PBRs.
Right now, I think that we might have sponsorship for the show because that was a commercial and a half. I am sure we are going to get a dime from that company for that ringing endorsement, sir.
I know there was a renaissance of that in the area here, too, in which I would go to parties and everybody's like, "Hey, PBR, here's a big old rack and a half of PBR. Oh, yeah, let's get back into that old classic." And it's like, all right.
The number one thing I think of with Pabst Blue Ribbon is that I could always see like 50 commercials for it whenever I'd watch the Chicago Cubs play on WGN when I was a kid. So that's what I know it for.
Memory.
Boo Cubs.
Yes.
So they'd play them during the Brewers games as well. For
Oh, there you go. Well, of course, the Brewers.
Yeah.
Of
Well,
course.
that would be Miller, but yes.
I got Pabst Blue Ribbon on my mind. That's all I remember.
It is the spooky season. There was a bit of an assignment for us, I guess, just to bring or talk about some of the books that we are reading that fall on the spooky side. And so I brought a couple of selections myself. I'll throw one out there on the pile. Has anybody been reading Bunny Mask?
Nope.
No.
I've
Haven't even
sort
heard of
of. I read the free comic book day special.
As did I.
It was
Ooh.
pretty good. I'm going to have to read more. Yeah, here it is.
Yep.
Still have it right here.
Yep.
That looks
Remind me to
awesome.
look for it. I just haven't had a chance to get more, but it was interesting.
Yeah, it's by Aftershock Comics. I picked it up with that free comic book day as well, and I went out and picked up the first trade. The series itself is out on the second trade right now, or the books for the second trade, so I'm waiting to get that. I'm going to pick this up in trades. It is creepy. It is disturbing. It's dealing with those really uncomfortable things right in the near shadows, and the main character is this woman demon monster who wears this bunny mask and is absolutely frightening. And it is the stuff of just horror and terror. And I really like that free holiday read, and that got me interested in this. So that was one of the times when the free comic book day book actually helped me buy a series or get into a series. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, it's like one of the two things I read that I was like, okay, I want to buy more of these. So like one of those, like two out of like the 20 books I bought I got for free.
Did anybody else pick up that free book or has heard of it at all?
Nope. Didn't make it out to the free day this year.
Yeah, not I, but it sounds fascinating.
I'm trying to think of what else to say about it. I should mention who wrote it. It's Paul Tobin, Andrea Muti, and Taylor Esposito. And it deals a lot with kind of going back in the past. Incident occurred. Some vengeance of evil has come out to walk the earth and take care of some evil that's out there. It's very creepy. It's really does the horror element well of trying to hint at the story that's there and unfolds slowly as you try to make sense of what's going on. You and the main protagonist are both trying to figure out, who is this creature? What's she doing? How am I involved in this? And am I going insane as well? But the art in it is a little bit minimalistic, soft colors or pastel colors, a watercolor type of painting in the background. And it just is very evocative and really uses the shadows and elements of the shadows and the creepy things that are sleeping and the creepy things that are moving around in the background. So I really highly recommend Bunny Mask. It's one of the creepy, spooky things that I'm picking up nowadays that is really, really good. So pass it off to somebody else if there's something else that people have been reading or have read recently.
Well, I read this a while ago, as in a couple of years, but I was planning on reading it again anyway for this year because it's been sitting on the shelf and I keep going, oh yeah, I should read that again. Adaptation Marvel did of Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula, by Roy Thomas and Dick Giordano. I can never pronounce his name.
Giordano?
Yes, him too. So it's the classic Dracula story, but it's beautiful. I mean, the Giordano's a great artist, so it's just a beautiful retelling of it. It's just another fun way to, consume that. I mean, there's like 5,000 ways to read the original Dracula. There's the book, there's all the adaptations, TV shows, movies. There's just another one. But it's fun, and I like both those creators.
When did that come out?
Copyright 2004.
I did not know this was out. I need to pick this up. I love Dracula.
I bought this years ago.
Dracula is one of my favorite novels. I read it all the time. Right now, I'm signed up for a thing where they will email you whatever journal or letter it is on the date it came out. Like, for example, if at the top, August 31st, on August 31st, you get that. So you get to follow the story like as the people involved would have with the amount of time between there and things, which is kind of interesting.
That's actually pretty cool.
I was going to say that I haven't read it in a long time, and I'm really not sure where it would have to be in a box somewhere in my mother's house or her storage property. When I was a kid, we had these small little illustrated books. I don't think they were classics illustrateds, but they might have been reprints of them or something else that was like its own thing that were retellings of the stories like Dracula and Frankenstein, and but these small little books, small little paperbacks.
We had those at school.
They were fascinating.
Yeah, and I was in like the 8th grade, and they had it in the school library. Like all of those we got to read, and Dracula's the first one I read. There was some good art in there.
So it's not the Reader Digest versions of things, because I've read.
No, I don't think so.
No, I think they were called illustrated classics.
It's been a long time since I saw it.
Just because I remember reading those decades ago, where it'd be like, oh, okay, I'm reading The Invisible Man, and then find out it's like, oh, this is like the ultra abridged version. Okay, there's more. Interesting. So.
Yeah, of course, I'm looking up this Marvel's Dracula and seeing if I can find it.
So am I.
A nice cheap version I can maybe add to my collection. But
Nice.
Darn you, Amazon, for not having it a nice, reasonable price. Or maybe that's a good thing. I don't know.
Now, these books we're talking about, these ones, were these like small, like almost like pocket-sized ones?
Yeah, I would say so.
Like not full-size books. Like a little smaller, but a lot thicker than a digest comic.
Right.
Or around that size.
Mine were, as I recall, the dimensions were a little bit bigger than a digest.
Maybe. I'm going by memory, but roughly.
Yeah. It might have been 40 to 50 pages long, something like that.
Would it be like a page of text and then like a picture with like a little bit of like caption underneath?
These were really comic book style illustrations with word balloons and narration boxes and the whole 9 yards that you'd expect from a comic book.
Yeah, and we had the French versions we used in French class of like Swiss Family Robinson and Around the World in 80 Days that we'd have to read through, and it actually was extremely good at learning the damn subjunctive tense anyway. They use that way too much.
Learning
That's
French
excellent.
through comics.
Yes, I'm an advocate for this. If there's somebody who wants to do that, I'll advertise for you too, just like PBR. Everyone's favorite blue ribbon beer, Pabst.
It goes down as smooth as a language lesson from a comic book. PBR!
Call us, PBR, call us.
We need some of that poor college student and hipster money.
Yeah.
We haven't been reading any comics recently of any kind. October turns out to be mystery month for us a lot of the time. It's a spooky season, and
yeah, it's something that I kind of started. Like, October is when I watch the spooky things or a lot of murder mysteries, like a lot of Columbo and Murder, She Wrote.
Aw, Angela.
And Angela Lansbury passed away today, which was very sad.
Yes.
Yep.
Very sad.
Yep.
Oh,
96 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
98, good for her.
98? I thought 96.
Yeah, I thought 96 too, but
Maybe it could be 96. I can't see. I never learned to
It's
read.
close enough. 95, whatever. You hit that, it's like, good for you.
Right,
Damn,
yeah,
nice.
for sure. Absolutely.
very much in she had a very good run.
Yes, absolutely.
96. My bad.
So I read a lot of Agatha Christie novels in October. I'm on my third so far, which isn't a lot considering that they don't take me very long to read. But I read The Mirror Cracked and Death on the Nile, and I'm working on Peril at End House.
And I'm reading Death on the Nile now.
Which I'm very excited about. It's so much fun, like, having read the book and now John's reading it and he's telling me what's happening in the book, and I'm like, oh yeah, you'll learn more about that later.
And then we're going to read At the Mountains of Madness.
By H.P. Lovecraft.
Yes.
I have that.
Whoa.
Because I actually haven't read any Lovecraft. I do, however, have quite a soft spot in my heart for Edgar Allan Poe. But I think, like, so Telltale Heart, Black Cat. But
Bells.
The Bells, which I was just introduced to, is amazing. It's a fantastic poem. It's very frightening. He will make you afraid of bells.
That's what the difference between Poe and Lovecraft is.
Yeah.
Lovecraft will make you dread unimaginable horrors from beyond known space and creation. And Poe will make you freaked out about bells, man.
Yeah, bells and cataracts.
Poe is also infinitely more easy to read than Lovecraft.
Yeah.
I would say he's a better writer. If you can get through Lovecraft's prose and forget, brush out of your mind how horrifically racist he was.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking just racist by the standards of he was alive in the early 20th century. Man, he was racist by the standards of the time to a ludicrous degree. And that's kind of what he was writing about all the time. But he did by that manage to kind of internalize the whole like fear of the modern age that society was going through. And that's essentially what he was getting at.
Yeah, we found a YouTube channel. I cannot remember the name of it right now, but it's somebody reading the short stories, like a lot of Lovecraft short stories. He does have At the Mountains of Madness on there too. But it's like an hour and a half long. So we were listening to one, and I can't remember which one it was, but I was just entranced by it.
Like Nyarlathotep.
Maybe it was that one,
Yeah.
but I enjoyed the language. So I think
one of the dream ones, right?
Yeah.
there was one of the dream ones we listened to as well.
The dream cycle ones. That's
yeah.
His dream cycle is really interesting.
Yeah. So I'm actually kind of keen. We're just waiting for it to come in at the library so I can sink my teeth into that one. But I'm enjoying my Agatha Christie in the meantime. She's a good one.
I was going to say on the Lovecraft, I went through a period where I was reading all of his stuff. Mm-hmm. And the thing I did appreciate is, like you were saying, John, he does a really good job of making you afraid of things that you can't describe. Mm-hmm. And it's that really good way of describing the feeling you get and making your mind put together what could possibly cause you to feel like that. And it's the reading equivalent to the trick in film where they don't show you the horror. Mm-hmm. It's right off screen and your mind is creating something worse than they could possibly ever show you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's that same type of thing. And I think that's what I love about Lovecraft and how he can make that fear and terror well up inside you just because you can't explain it. It's so horrific you can't explain it, but this is what it's doing to you. That's because what he's writing about is math and that what's in the water with me while I'm swimming in the ocean at night.
Yeah,
that's literally what he's writing about a lot of the time.
Yeah.
He does not like math, and he does not like the squiggly things that are in the water that could be with him.
Mm.
It also wasn't so much that he didn't like math, that he didn't understand math or the color spectrum. Both of those things in science, like a good English major, completely blew his mind. So he wrote about it, given how he misunderstood them, and that's how we get the color out of space being a color that doesn't exist, or like non-Euclidean geometry. He was like,
what?
How?
So it was all he was writing about was modern. He was like a fortune teller, and he saw modern day movie posters where they were teal and orange, and he's just like, they're all the same. I can't understand. It must be madness from space.
It is blowing my mind. Jeff, how about you? What are you reading or enjoying right now that's spooky or terrifying?
Well, as we all know, reading's for nerds, so I've been watching a thing called The Television from very few times between. Also, I love books, I just haven't been having time with it between everything in life. But Disney Plus did drop a nice little special called Werewolf by Night. What could that have been from? Aroo, the werewolves of Marvel.
Yeah, this is the bit that I cut out.
Yeah.
The biggest things that I've been watching, basically that are horror related, other than the Nurgle-esque plague that my daughter keeps on bringing in from school, is Moon Knight and Werewolf by Night.
Those are two good things we could definitely discuss here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that the Fire and Water Network just did a really nice discussion on it with their little roundtable. I listened to that on Sunday while I was mowing the lawn, and I think that they did a very good job of talking about that film. Around the table, what did you guys think of that?
It's fun.
Awesome.
I loved it.
I had a lot of fun watching it, and I, loved it being in black and white. The aesthetic of it. Elsa Bloodstone was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
The actor who played Jack Russell really kind of nailed the part. It really felt good. His appearance as the werewolf was spot on from the comic books.
Yep.
Spot on. But also, it was just great that in its way, he really didn't look that scary just because he looked like that. It's kind of like that old horror werewolf
old
look.
Universal.
He need a haircut and then you're fine. Just give him a haircut and he's fine, you know?
Little body wax.
But they showed...
But all the characters were reacting so scared of him. That's what sold it. So I love that.
Him setting up with Elsa what was going to happen and then delivering upon it. It may not have, he may not have the look of it, but he destroyed everything. Well, actually, he caused a lot of damage to everything in that room, and he wasn't nearly unstoppable there. So that was
he was getting
definitely
tased
cool
down
part.
pretty hard.
Yeah.
Nearly.
And of course, how can we not love Man-Thing?
Yeah.
I mean,
I love his addition as the monster.
I really don't think I'm a Man-Thing fan. I really don't. But when he first appeared, I squealed. It was really just hilarious. It was just like, oh, it was so amazing. I loved his appearance. And boy, when he laid down the burning touch.
Oh, yeah.
That was the bad touch.
Hit the floor
Bad
with
touch.
that.
It was very cool.
I think the best part about it was going into it with no expectation of what this was. You saw the trailer for it, and I was kind of confused. I'm like, I'm not sure what they're going for here. Are they going for the throwback? Are they going for the tongue-in-cheek pastiche? And so going into not knowing what to expect and getting that was the best thing for me. Just the absolute unexpected joy of something that could have gone horribly, horribly wrong, but they seemed to hit every single note about right. And that was impressive.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm a huge fan of, Universal Studios horror movies, and there was so much that was just an obvious direct lift from the Wolfman, and even from other ones from like I Was a Teenage Werewolf and some other things, but especially with them, the witness to the transformation. And
that was so cool. That transformation scene where she's like cowering in the cage, and all you can see is the silhouette,
that
the
was
shadow
so
of him
good.
transform. That was very effective.
And that was very Universal Studios.
Very much so.
And that what sold that scene so well was that it's the Joss Whedon method of, that the Reavers are terrifying because Jane is afraid of the Reavers. Jane isn't afraid of anything. You know that the thing that they're fighting is the end of the world because Giles tells them to. In this one, that he's scared because she, who we have seen be very capable and incredibly badass, is now cowering up against the side of the cage at that. So that was pretty good. At that point, it doesn't matter what he actually looks like. Because then once you see him, you're like, you're kind of more like a monkey.
Totally agree.
Yep. He's caged. It's safe. It's sure as foggy. It sure is part of an open cage. Not where you'd expect, but way up there. Yeah. Oh, we're in trouble.
Yep. It felt like it had that old, like you said, it definitely had the Universal look and feel, but it felt like a Universal, if they were trying to do that, but they were doing it in the 70s.
Yeah,
there was quite a bit of still that 70s Hammer, especially aesthetic, especially like whoever the stepmom was.
Yeah,
like a little bit of that 70s extra makeup and the slight overacting and extra screaming. Just made me feel like I was also watching a Hammer movie. If they're like, the Hammer guys like, let's see if we can do a Universal one. Let's do our version of that.
Yeah, it's the in the 70s doing a throwback to the 30s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also loved it when they did the opening music where here's the music. Nope, drop it. It's in black and white and it's in a minor key.
That was
So it is now that creepy Halloween sound. Yep.
Well, and even before that, when they had the bit about showing that it's a special presentation and they have the big rainbow effect come across there. I mean, maybe some of you young folk don't remember in the 70s when we'd have the Sunday night movie or that CBS special presentation with the and it just evoked that so strongly, which is also from that period. It just set the tone, I think, just beautifully for what they were going to be delivering next. The execution on it just was chef's kiss.
Had all of the other people in here, like her assistant, the stepmother's assistant, the other hunters, the way that they were doing the overacting and they were really just selling the creepiness of it or what they were doing and really just twirling their mustaches or giving it that extra little whatever. It's another good throwback to those Universal horror films and the people that were acting in those, the character actors they had back then. They just really tried to lean into that and sell it for the send-up that it is.
And I liked how well it's also just slotted into all of the Marvel stuff they're doing with the current way that they're going. They've gotten away from origin stories. They seem to have moved completely. So everything just starts right in the middle of it, or just tells you the origin quickly and then goes. So I've been having fun with a lot of these shows, just kind of plopping down in the middle and like, okay, who are these people? I guess I'll find out. Oh, that one's dead. Maybe I'll find out on the recap.
Okay.
Jeff mentioned Moon Knight, and we kind of had the same thing with Moon Knight. We just start off in the middle of this guy's life, even though we are media res from what else is going on with him. Mm-hmm. So that's another one where they've done that. They've also done it with She-Hulk as well, but trying to keep in the more horror and spooky elements here.
I do like the fact that they're just speeding the introduction along. It's like, we do not need to... You understand people have superhero origins. You understand that. You get the gist. How did She-Hulk become She-Hulk? Car crash, got a little blood, now she's a Hulk. Okay, she's smart Hulk. Go! You know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's the equivalent of her origin was just a one-issue origin.
Yep.
Because you did that back then. It was just one issue done.
Good point.
And that's, one episode, boom, done. That's all you needed.
I did love the fact in Werewolf by Night that every character that they had in there was distinctive and interesting. Mm-hmm. And you might not know what their names are, but you're like, oh, there's that guy. And he's super awesome and insane.
Yes.
And also an efficient monster killer, but also just nuts. But also... just interesting. Oh, yeah, that our guy's arm's gone now. He's probably still 100% effective until he's dead. So,
yeah. But the only thing that I could almost say was a disappointment, and it really wasn't. It was just because it's something that was on my end, not theirs. Was when I saw the trailer, I thought that was because the way it looked, the body of Bloodstone looked like Marvel's Frankenstein. So I thought that was going to be Frankenstein because he had that look with like that kind of furryish vest that they usually had him wear. So I thought it was going to be Frankenstein. No, I wasn't upset because I'm like, oh, cool, Bloodstone. All right, I'll deal with that. That's fine. But I was like, shucks, I wanted Frankenstein.
I enjoy where they're going with the possible Midnight Suns thing. Who knows? They can go in a million directions after this, it was so great. I want more things like this. And don't limit yourself to Halloween or Christmas. I want like another
Valentine's
man thing for Arbor Day or something.
Arbor Day. Man Thing Arbor Day.
The Man Thing Arbor Day special.
Man Thing Groot Arbor Day special. It writes itself.
I do want the Jack and Ted Buddy TV series. That would be fun.
That would be amazing.
I think it would be amazing, but I think it might wear thin after a little while. I think there's only so much you could do with them. But they were both great characters. I love both of them.
I guess if I was really going to workshop it, I'd say animated and 10 to 15 minutes per episode, tops.
Because I think Jeff just summed up the problem with the characters in the first place that they also found out in the 70s is there's only so many stories you can tell with these before you run out of issues. I enjoyed Man-Thing. I mean, I'm not what one would call a Man-Thing fan. Oh, that one's going to get chopped up and sent everywhere.
You're not a fan of big Man-Thing?
Yeah.
Does John talk about his giant-sized Man-Thing a lot?
Well, I don't.
Just that he's not a fan of it.
Information.
That's not a no.
Just talk about giant-sized Man-Thing.
Yeah.
But but all of those issues came out.
It's a nexus of reality, right?
Well, now you're getting into anyway. But that was the 70s. The Marvel, what was that? 73 or 74 when they had that big push of new characters that were all kind of also pushing in on the whole popularity of the re-release and remakes of the Universal ones and the Hammer movies. And then so you had your Werewolf by Night, Dracula, Moon Knight was then, and then you also had your Kung Fu oriented ones all coming out there. I enjoy the 70s vibe. It gives me hope that we'll have a Dazzler series that takes place in a disco.
As it should.
That's what I'm saying.
Speaking of things that I'm reading, but not necessarily horror, I'm reading Douglas Woke's All the Marvels, where he went through and read all of the Marvel comic books, and he's discussing just the giant tapestry that is Marvel. But he does do a little bit of deconstruction about how the comic book industry went from having a lot of questionable content and then self-regulating themselves and having that start to loosen up a bit going into the 70s, and they started to bring back the monsters and a little bit of the horror element back in the 70s, and that's why we saw such a big resurgence of that in the comic books, especially Marvel at that time. It's just kind of fascinating to see that how that grew eventually, where they just dropped the comic code altogether, and then now we're kind of in a period where, okay, we're just doing good content. We're not trying to do the shock and awe all the time, but what does that look like, and how can we utilize all of the tools at our property?
Well, when you talk about Marvel in the 70s, that actually ties into what I have been reading lately that's on the spooky side. But we can come back around to that if there's something else.
Yeah, go ahead.
Al, did you have something?
Well, no, say this first. This is fine. Go first. You go first.
Okay. Well, I'm reading Justice League of America. I guess that doesn't really tie into it, does it? But that is my reading project for 2022. Although I have just reached Justice League Detroit, so maybe that, if depending upon your taste, maybe that is the most horrible thing you could think of. Maybe you're scared to death.
Never read
another thing I've been that's for another podcast. Anyway,
that's just what I need.
Exactly. One of the things I started reading this year, which was more of a long game reading effort, was Marvel 2-in-1 from the very beginning. And little did I know, there were 2 issues in Marvel Feature that were really like the prequel to the series starting up, which was a riot to me. That's why I love reading these older things too. It's like I'm learning new things about not just the characters, but the publication, how they went about publishing these things. When you were mentioning before about the birth of these new horror characters in Marvel in the 70s, like I just glanced through what I've read so far and just calling out particular names, like issue 1 has Man-Thing, and eventually we get to Ghost Rider, the Golem, Son of Satan.
Man, I read Ghost Rider. The first time I saw Ghost Rider was in the 3rd grade. Bob Buhager.
Oh, yeah.
Bob Buhager brought a stack of comic books into school, and he said, "Here, you want to read this?" And I picked it and I flipped it through. I didn't know what was going on in there, but it scared the hell out of me. It was
yeah, and he's the good guy in the book.
I know.
What?
He was fighting Satan in the book, and I was scared. I was very, very Catholic at the time. You don't need to be showing me that
stuff. And we have like the sci-fi horror of Deathlock.
Yep.
But then also Modred the Mystic. What did I get up to most recently? Oh, Brother Voodoo. Brother Voodoo. Are you kidding me? But the reason I actually started this series, because what I really wanted to do was I wanted to read the 70s Spider-Woman series. That's what I really wanted to get to. And her major first story arc is in Marvel 2-in-1. I got into that from there. Also reading her first appearance in Marvel Spotlight. And wow. So her origin really said originally that retconned it away right away afterwards was she was a spider turned into a human, which is like, oh, that's big time horror. Okay. But they completely changed that around, of course, later to shenanigans of father scientists.
And then kept
It's always the father's fault.
You know.
Always the father's fault.
It's the reverse of the metamorphosis.
Exactly.
Oh, this cockroach turned into a young girl. Oh.
Yeah. And then also in Marvel 2-in-1, they have the Thing and Spider-Woman fighting Alicia Masters turned into a gigantic spider person.
Remember that one.
It's like, wow. It's like, yeah, this is amazing bonkers. But that led right into me reading Spider-Woman, and its tagline on the masthead says, "To know her is to fear her." So they're leaning into it. It's like they're trying to make it a borderline horror book. And then we have like murderers like the Brother Grimm in there already, and the Hangman, and Werewolf by Night appears in issue number 6. So it's like, it's all over the place for that. That's not as far as I've gotten.
Doesn't Ben,
like,
the Man-Thing one, sorry, Tim, doesn't the Man-Thing one, isn't that Ben finds out about him in a newspaper or something and gets mad that he took his name and goes down to fight him? And that's like the whole plot.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
That's exactly right.
Love it.
Hey, nobody steals my name there, weirdo.
He rides a bus. And they fight the Molecule Man, who's wearing a Speedo.
Oh,
and
dear God, nobody needs that.
I don't know what was the most terrifying thing in the book.
You just said it. You know exactly what it was.
We all saw it.
I have a question.
We all saw it.
I do have a question of a thing that you referenced when they fought arachnified Alicia Masters. I'm assuming this 8-eyed spider was also blind, so they were still beating up a blind girl?
I'm trying to recall if they actually clarified that.
Whoopsie.
Yeah, no, she was blind, but with spider senses. So,
oh man, that's even worse.
Yeah.
I feel everything.
Oh, poor Tongue Tongue.
Well, that was the main thing is that, actually the Thing wasn't fighting her because I can't hurt Malicia.
A surprise Dan Slott didn't bring that up at some point.
No.
Again, in his various things.
Probably Spider
writings.
Island, where everybody in New York got turned into a spider in Spider-Man.
They
That's
just obliquely
true.
reference it in that. They maybe didn't necessarily go over to the Alicia Master household and she's like,
I'm a spider again. No, Ben's gonna beat me up. He's such a loving, caring individual until I'm an arachnid, and then he's very abusive. But he loves me.
And somehow also Starscream.
She could have been immune. That's the thing. She could have been immune to it, and then that would have been a whole thing about how to save Spider Island.
ooh, that could have been neat. Mary Jane Watson was highly resistant to the arachnid disease due to
all those years of sharing a toothbrush.
exactly
Yes.
a lot of inoculations going on between her and Pete. So
I was looking over at what else I've got over here, and has everybody else been keeping up with Something's Killing the Children?
nope, haven't heard of it.
No.
No?
I've heard of those words in sequences.
I have heard of the series, but I haven't been reading it. No.
James Tynion IV, who has done a lot of very good things recently. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is his horror book from Boom Studios, and it starts off, we don't know what's going on. There's some monsters that are killing the children, and there's this young woman that comes out, and she is a demon hunter, and you're trying to figure out, okay, why does she know a lot more than everybody else? Why is she trying to protect the kids from this? Why is she part of an organization that does this? And just trying to pick apart these different things, but it's also, there are monsters that specifically go out and hunt children, and only children can see them. And only children could fight them.
That's pretty great.
Yeah,
I want to play that role-playing game now.
And the game's name is Child Soldier.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
This is another one that I would definitely recommend.
Oh, so the X-Men. Okay. Ooh, sorry.
Sorry, Rick, I couldn't help it, but when you were saying, the question is like, why is she trying to stop it from killing the children? I'm like, yeah, why? Like, just let it kill the kids. Why she want to? That's what it kind of sounds like. It's like, why is she stopping them? They're killing children only. It's fine.
As long as it's not the parents.
We're good with that.
What's the problem? It's all okay.
Yeah, I'm not a kid. I'm good with that.
Just because you were once from New Jersey doesn't mean you have to act all stereotypical murder New Jersey, as I stereotype all New Jersey people.
Actually, he kind of does.
I haven't murdered anybody.
That I know
Today.
of. Let's see.
I mean, there was the thing with the guy at the place before, but that doesn't count. That doesn't count.
I've been to New Jersey. You can't even go to a deli without murdering 2-3 people. It's part of the rules.
The art is fantastic in it. It's just a lot of good stuff. And I was going to show a bunch of artwork, but apparently, there's Jeff's daughter that's going to look right at it. And she already can't sleep anyways. So.
It's true. There's a lot.
Oh, that she can't sleep.
No, she's a kid who doesn't like going to bed. And then she's also, it's been fun with the bronchitis stuff where it's just like, middle of the night coughing fest. And then it turns into whatever. So, yeah, it's fun times.
See, I did the homework. I brought books to talk about.
Well, there you go. Good thing you did your homework. No, I had a question for everybody then. So we had the Werewolf by Night special with Elsa Bloodstone and Man-Thing. If, let's say, the next one they drop on us, who is the one that you just want to see? Doesn't matter if it makes sense or not.
Oh.
Who do you want to see from, Marvel's horror-esque type related characters?
Oh, from the horror. So I can't just say Ursa Major, the Man-Bear, like I do every time. Okay, I'll think of somebody.
If you think he can fit into it, I mean, not everyone is related. I mean, if you really are a fan of, Doc-Myth the Enchanter from Man-Thing, that kind of would count because, he's a Man-Thing character.
I mean, I would be interested to see what they could do with Tomb of Dracula stories.
They already did the Demon Bear in a New Mutants movie, and that doesn't really count.
Yeah.
Tomb of Dracula would be interesting in a serial format. Mm-hmm. It would be great. Oh, what else? I mean, we had Moon Knight.
I'm with Tim. I think if they did a New Mutants movie, or maybe even a Morbius movie, that could be pretty cool.
No.
It's never going to happen, Jeff. But.
I wouldn't mind if they did more random I would like to see more of Werewolf by Night, but I wouldn't mind more just random one shots, like some of the minor characters, like the Living Mummy.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Or the Scarecrow.
That'd be pretty cool.
Oh, I always forget about
the horror
that.
Scarecrow, not the regular.
I would really like to see
Scarecrow.
Them do Howard the Duck and Son of Satan in a single show.
Son of Satan could be fun. Once again, it's getting into that Midnight Suns kind of category of there's an evil monster out there and we're getting together those people that hunt at night and take care of those things that go bump in the night.
The first issue of Howard the Duck I think I ever read did guest star Son of Satan.
Yeah, it's when he was he got possessed by Damien's evil soul, right?
Oh,
and
right.
Howard had the cloak and the trident and everything.
I think the MCU could make that work.
They never knew what to. I think they could too. They never knew what to do with Howard back then, so they just kind of chucked him in the refuse bin with all of the other characters that wouldn't do anything, and it wound up creating this. I think it helped improving the overall horror vibe that they were doing. I mean, personally, if it's Marvel v DC in terms of the way their monsters or supernatural stuff, I've always been a Marvel fan, more so in that. DC's got some great stuff, but to my mind, it didn't even really get great until Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman got a hold of it. I mean, your mileage may vary on that, but I think with Marvel, it's just because of the 70s and the way they brought it in and the whole wackiness of it and the fact that they threw a duck in that was created in a lark that was brought back from the dead because stoned college students wrote in tons of letters demanding it. I mean, it just fits in more with the vibe of the universe. So you could expect, like, suddenly Spider-Man encounters Dracula in an annual and it doesn't seem as weird. Whereas over in the DC universe, Batman has encountered vampires a good 12, 13 times, completely dismissive of the idea that vampires could possibly exist in all of them. It never seems to really click with what they do there. So...
well, Batman has his own issues, so, you know.
Yeah, that's true. He has many issues in several series, more coming out all the time.
Yeah. If it doesn't fit in his worldview, he's like, nope, didn't happen. Yep. Don't count it.
There are so many young boys' lives he can just destroy. That sounded creepy, didn't it? That was inappropriate. I apologize.
Hello, future human shield.
Wear these bright clothes. Go out there and take damage.
Batman, could you please leave the nursery, okay?
Alfred, we need to stop by the orphanage. I'm all out of Robins.
No, Bruce, not again.
There have been 419 Robins.
Prove me wrong.
The real horrors in Wayne Manor.
Alfred, I did it again.
Well, the thing is that I've actually been starting to count how many Batmans there are we've had lately. And actually the number's gone up quite a bit. So there you go.
Well, I mean, first of all, you talk about all the kids who have been Robin. They will eventually be Batman at some point in time or the other. And then you have all the people that have taught Batman. They will also be Batman at one point in time or the other.
And everyone who's an ancestor of Batman will at some point be Batman.
So it's not just Batman. It's not just Robins we're going through. We're going through Batmans. All the Batmans. Batmans.
What's the plural of Batmans? Is it Batmen?
Batmans.
What is it? Maggie's the expert. We're going to call her this. What's the plural of Batman?
Well, if it follows the same logic as like mothers and fathers-in-law, then it would be Batsman.
Thank you.
Yes, I was going to say we're using the surgeon generals or surgeons general.
Yes, surgeons general. So it'd be Batsman.
Batsman.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Maggie, it's good that we got somebody intelligent here.
Well, it's funny though, because you asked about what Marvel characters you wanted to see next, and every single character I came up with was from DC.
Oh no!
I think that's like my subconscious saying I just really would like to see DC get their crap together and put something out that I want to watch. So,
what do you want to see from DC?
Well, first of all, I want them to go back and continue to make that Swamp Thing series that they were working on, because I freaking love Swamp Thing.
It was so good.
That show had a lot of promise, and I was super disappointed when it got canceled. But also, J.M. DeMatteis, way back in the day, did a book called I, Vampire, and it would be fun as hell to see I, Vampire come back. He talked to me on Twitter about that, because I mentioned it, and he's like, holy crap, I haven't worked on that. That was a long time ago. But yeah, so it was, all I could think of was DC stuff.
And he brought iVampire back for his Dr. Fate run.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, and Dr. Fate's another one that I'd love to see.
Well, we're going to see, you will get to see Pierce Brosnan woodenly.
I'm not so sure I'm excited about that. I'm going to date myself because Pierce Brosnan to me is James Bond. But
Pierce Brosnan to me is Remington Steele.
Me too.
And I've seen Remington Steele, but he was James Bond when I was a kid, so he's my James Bond.
He's my favorite Bond.
It's that hair.
GoldenEye's my favorite Bond movie, I should say. I mean, my favorite Bond is hard to say.
I don't know if at this point I even have a favorite. He was just the one that was on when I was a kid.
My favorite's probably whatever one I watched last.
Yeah. I enjoy James Bond movies. It doesn't particularly matter.
Nothing will be better in a James Bond movie than Pierce Brosnan in a tank bursting through the wall and stopping and adjusting his tie before taking off. That was like...
Yeah.
For me...
That's a level of cool.
He was supposed to be Timothy Dalton.
Yes. Yeah.
But Remington Steele... but NBC kind of screwed him on it.
Yeah.
And so he had to... That's why the last season...
Which is too bad, because Remington Steele is also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy watching it.
I was going to say that for me, Pierce Brosnan is also the antagonist in Mrs. Doubtfire. So, that's what
I knew you were going to say that. Drive-by fruiter.
It was a drive-by fruiting.
But Pierce Brosnan, the poor bastard who was getting assaulted by the crazy
ex-husband of his current fiance. Yeah, that movie I don't think really holds up.
We have drifted off the horror. Drifted off the horror.
Hit on the back of the head with a muffin.
Horror.
Yeah, and he seemed like a fine guy. He seemed like a fine guy, too. It's just that
that's right.
He was with the ex.
The other man.
It could be on a movie muck about it. It ties in. We can bring it back to podcasting.
I was trying to look up really quickly and seeing if Pierce Brosnan was in a horror movie, and I guess there's a 2021 horror film, False Positive, with him, which I haven't seen. So.
He was in The Lawnmower Man.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
He was in Dante's Peak.
That's a different kind of horror movie.
Dante's Peak, Lawnmower Man. Yeah.
He was in Mrs. Doubtfire.
Lawnmower Man.
Is that a horror movie?
I think it is now.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I was thinking of the Hulk, in terms of horror characters. He kind of represents that whole Godzilla manifestation of the bomb fear, but also he created the bomb, so he's that American guilt over having created the situation that you're fearing gets wrapped up in it. There was an annual. God, I can't remember right now. It was an annual somewhere in the either late 70s, early 80s. And it was just a one-shot thing, which was basically Doctor Strangelove, and then the Hulk shows up. It's terrifying. It had this very Neil Adams inspired art, so it's just very realistic, almost grotesque aspects. And it's just the Hulk wanders onto a missile site while some super patriot decides he needs to kill the commies. And it was like the Hulk showing up caused the failsafe to go clear, so they couldn't stop him, and things along those lines. I'll find it out later and post on it on Twitter someday.
Nice.
Or maybe I'll have a
I think you've got
podcast called where I read a comic with my wife.
No. I say thee nay.
Whatever you need to kill the commies.
You bring up the Hulk, and the recent Immortal Hulk is another very good horror comic.
All sorts of horror.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, this is body horror. It's really, really good. I enjoyed this series a lot. I still haven't read the ending because I've been picking all these up in the hardback because it's really good.
Yeah, they're that good. Yeah, I think the original Hulk was basically it was a Jekyll and Hyde, but with fear of the atomic age.
With Frankenstein.
With Frankenstein, yeah, it's
Yeah, and I always thought that before the whole MCU started, I always thought that was how they could do a Hulk movie. When I assumed it was going to be like everything else from before, it was going to be just the Hulk on its own. They're not going to do a universe of movies. That'd be insane. That's how I thought they would be able to do a Hulk movie, would be like a horror movie.
Yeah.
Almost, where like this thing is attacking, what's happening in this, it's because it's only happening at night. Do the whole thing where he only changed at night like he used to.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Hulk can always be, they could still do something like that with the Hulk because the Hulk keeps changing. So yeah, we got Smart Hulk now, but that's just for now. The only reason we're not seeing it regularly is because they can't legally keep making Hulk things.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we're only seeing Hulk during the crossovers right now, where first he's dumb, and now all of a sudden it's Joe Fixit running around with a suit, and next thing you know, he's really smart and wearing a jacket and talking in big words, and 20 minutes later he's gonna have like next crossover he's gonna have like 2 heads and be red and scaled tongues.
I want the Wolverine as Patch and Joe Fixit Hulk. I want that movie.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
They do like the
that's
twins
fun.
cover.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
Or the alternative Fantastic Four movie. Where someone make that happen.
Yes.
Spider-Man, Ghost Rider, Wolverine, and Hulk.
Wolverine.
Well, they could do a What If episode, no problem like that.
Oh, that's
what they should do. The Fantastic Four movie, just to really goof with us. The Fantastic Four movie coming out, and then have
Ruffalo.
Oh God, come on,
Nick
Cage. Nick Cage.
Yep.
And
that'd be hilarious.
Tom Holland. Yeah, and just have them up there like Fantastic Four. What?
Yeah. Well, another.
You would end that with Spider-Man going, "Hey, what if we called ourselves the Fantastic Four?"
That is so lame.
Say that name again,
nerd. They call him a nerd.
And then Hugh Jackman just walks off. I said I quit.
You all got me thinking about the Hulk series that starred Jennifer Walters from just a couple years ago, where it was called Hulk, but she was the star of the book.
Oh, the comic.
The comic. Yeah. That comic.
I was thinking the
comic.
Netflix, the Disney Plus series.
You can't say the word series anymore without clarifying, is it a comic or is it a TV show now? What the heck? What is this madness of a world we live in where I have to clarify that it's a comic book? That's crazy. But
Tim, was that the Savage Hulk?
It was just
called Hulk.
But yeah, she was completely savage. And there's a lot of elements of horror in that particular series as well. It was doing a lot of trauma.
That was really good.
Yeah, it was really good.
She had PTSD, and it was such a slow build.
Yeah,
in the way that like the Bruce Jones Hulk run.
Yes.
It kind of had that feel where you just had some sort of creepy feeling that something bad was going to happen. And she, what was the deal? She had died in a crossover and came back and in the process, she had lost control over her alter ego. And she's standing in her...
It was Civil War II that kicked it off. They had a gratuitous fight that was off camera with Thanos. And she was in a hospital bed afterwards.
That's right. And all I remember about that, there was the first scene where it's Jen getting up as Jen in her apartment, which is built and scaled for She-Hulk, and just walking around this small little being, looking around and just not fitting in and all this, and the art is so well. It really just builds up that creepy thing to make you, because the story is about PTSD, and particularly PTSD as experienced by a woman. And it does the kind of Lovecraft Country thing where it's designed to try to make you, a person who does not directly experience these things, kind of just experience it as general horror. If I'm explaining that in any cohesive way.
No, that's a lot of how I got from it as myself. So, and I used with those exact same words because I am just that smart.
Yes. So to clarify it, I found it. So it's Hulk from 2017. And at least the first 5 or 6 issues are reprinted as She-Hulk Deconstructed. So if anyone's looking for it, that looks to be what they're talking about.
Nice. That could be a really interesting sequel to the She-Hulk TV series, or a different kind of horror story to explore in the MCU. Yeah.
This was the series where she had basically just kind of abandoned ship and was like kind of just traveling on foot as Jen Walters, and was in like a diner, and Scarlet Witch comes in to bring her back in, and they have a huge fight which destroys the town.
That happens somewhere in there, I think. I think it had become She-Hulk again by that point. Or it might have.
I had read a chunk of those, and I thought that was an interesting concept, and I've lifted that idea and put it into a different story of my own devising, which exists solely in my mind.
Don't go in there. That's a different level of horror. Actually, going to some of the recent media that's out there, there's the Sandman show, which I think we can also consider that to be a bit of a horror element too, especially the beginning ones. It's based upon the original horror run for Sandman, Neil Gaiman. I think we've talked about before, but I know we at least covered a couple of those issues that dropped in the surprise episode. So
on this very
crossover. So what do we think of that? I mean, I enjoyed the heck out of it. I liked the reimagining of some of the scenes and some of the concepts, and I thought that it was somehow better than the original. I love the original Sandman books, but I thought that this was a really good modernization of those themes.
I really like what I've seen of it, but I have not finished it yet.
Oh, I really loved it.
Yep. We finished all of it, except we actually didn't see the new episode that has the ones that we covered.
Oh, Calliope
once again.
Dream of Death.
The surprise drop.
I loved that series. I loved watching the series. It was so enjoyable, and like just the characters were just spot on, and the casting really evoked them. You know, being a longtime continuity nerd of comics, it's like the fact that John was not actually Dr. Destiny is like one thing that I'm just going to be noticing because I just can't help myself. But do I care that this was not wedded to the DC universe? No, I don't think the Sandman story does not have to have that tie. It does not have to be part of it to still tell the stories it was telling.
You don't need Henry Cavill just walking through.
No.
As a guest appearance. You don't need that.
In the last episode, standing around.
You don't need a Gal Gadot just doing the same thing.
And that's how DC is kind of handling its things. It's all a multiverse. So instead of there being a tight continuity and tight tie-ins and cameos between other characters, it's like, no, they're all happening in their separate universes. So this is Earth Sandman, and that's where this one happens. It's brilliant. It was just brilliant. But yeah, and that episode that featured the cat's story and our muse Calliope, it was just so amazing. It just was. It was just so stirring.
When we do watch it again, we'll have Al and John on to do another episode covering it. Just to say, the same people that were on that talked about the comic. Yeah. And as John M. Wilson points out to me, it was like, that was a really weird issue to be dropped on, and that was the first time I'd met the man. It's like, so let's talk about this.
Let's talk about the most horrific thing we can possibly think about. Hi.
Let's get uncomfortable. I really hope if they can do a season 2, we can get to the Shakespeare stuff.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, please.
That'd be fun.
Like I said, I was happy with the changes they made. I was wondering about, are they going to talk about Dr. Destiny? But they didn't say it, and they didn't not say it. So if you need to make that connection in your mind, you make it. Who cares?
Yeah. He did stuff. People died. Yeah. They never said that the Justice League didn't bring him in.
Right. So it's okay. You can make that happen. You can make anything in there fit what you wanted to. They made Joanne Constantine rock on. Why not?
Now talk about a series I want to see.
Yeah.
She was probably the best John Constantine I've seen on screen. I've loved every John Constantine I've seen on screen to one degree or another, but she embodied what John Constantine, I should say.
Yeah.
Just the broken resignation of every aspect of her life. Just walking around and just figure, here I am. I'm in this because it is. I've done some horrible things, both by choice and because I'm a bastard. But it's so good. I want to see more of that.
The one part that, for me, enjoying the stories, and I was trying to wrap my head around, and finally I just accepted it, was, now wait a minute, the Corinthian is not this big of a deal in the story. But I liked having him in there. I liked having that creepy factor move throughout and have him be what we think is going to be the protagonist of the story. But then, at the end, he kind of gets owned. But I like the fact that they gave him a bigger presence and made him look bigger than he is and also smaller than he is by the end of it.
I agree.
Well, I'll also say that this particular series makes me hopeful that they have plans for Death, the High Cost of Living.
Oh, yeah.
It's got to be at least an episode or two they're planning.
Because, the actress who played Death was, oh my gosh, she was just amazing. It was just amazing what they did with her and her carrying that part. Yeah, that could be, it's like for this particular thing, it's like, as long as they keep Gaiman in the game, that was interesting. Really, this could be an amazing continuing series. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
I was going to also mention, too, since we're talking about Neil Gaiman, I love his stuff. I've been a big fan of his for a while, and I love not only his comics, but I also love a lot of his audio that he has done with his short stories. There is one of my favorite audio plays. Plays for Voices, I think it's called, is the company that does it, but they did two. They did Murder Mysteries and Snow Glass Apples. And the Murder Mysteries, the main angel is played by Brian Dennehy, and the Snow Glass Apples, the witch is played by Bebe Neuwirth. And talk about the story of Snow Glass Apples with her as the narrator. It brings a level of creepiness and just skin crawling to it. It's fantastic. But I picked up recently the Snow Glass Apples that's done by Colleen Doran. Her art in this is just gorgeous. And especially with the entire story of Snow Glass Apples. Once again, Neil Gaiman knows horror and knows how to creep you out with a lot of stuff. But that's something else I would highly recommend is if you can find those plays for voices. Both of those are really, really good.
So I'll admit something. When we recorded that one volume of Sandman, I had not read the rest of the series yet. I did have the first 5 trade paperbacks, but not the whole thing, and hadn't read the entire run yet. But before the TV series aired, I did get the remaining volumes through Comixology and had just a blast reading the rest of it. It's so good and so literate. I know you all know this already because you're smart people who read it before, but it's just an amazing series, and I'm glad I had a chance to finish it before seeing the TV show.
Coming up on a good chunk of time. I've still got some time to talk, but I wanted to pass it around. Is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up on some other stuff that they enjoy or have been reading or have revisited lately?
I got something that it's actually kind of funny. I forgot about it because it's on the pile on my desk here, and I actually had to move it out of the way when I was looking for that Bunny Mask one-shot. It was in the way. I had to move it. I didn't even think about it. It's a book I got off Kickstarter called Classic Monsters Unleashed, and basically it is a whole big 400-page collection of different short stories done recently, all about doing updates or doing new versions of classic monsters or monster stories. So we're talking Frankenstein, Dracula. They do their own someone does a version of the Island of Dr. Moreau, anything you could think of, The Mummy, Creature from the Black Lagoon, just dozens of different short stories featuring these type of characters.
Nice.
For the most part, they're pretty damn good. I hope The Phantom of the Opera, etc., etc. So whatever they could think of. I'm about to 312, so I got most of the way through. And so far, for the most part, they're pretty damn good.
That sounds relevant to my interests.
I think my favorite one is the story about Mina, where she from Dracula, where she's kind of tricked into thinking she's insane, and she realizes that she's not. And then she's at the end, she's like, no, you don't have the power. Here's the thing. all these vampire little kitties you have now because of me. I'm mommy.
Oh,
they
neat.
care about me, not you. And Dracula's like, oh crap. Basically, it's a custody battle. It's a horror custody battle. You gotta love it.
That's a riot.
I'm hoping it's available somewhere, but yeah, it's called Classic Monsters Unleashed.
Dude, who published it?
Hopefully it's available. What is technically the name of the publisher? It is Black Spot Books and Crystal Lake Publishing.
I think I found it. I think you can find this on Amazon.
Okay, hopefully. Yeah, I never know with the Kickstarter stuff.
Yeah.
You know, is it just going to be just the one you got and that's it, or are there going to be more?
Well, it looks like Classic Monsters Unleashed 1 as a paperback. Looks like James Aquilone was the editor or something.
Was the editor?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah. No, they got the hardcover there too. I think the hardcover matches what you showed us too. But yeah, there you go. Nice. John, besides buying that book, what else John and Maggie, I should say, besides buying that book and sharing it, what else you guys read?
I'm trying to think. The only book I can think of, let's see, horror-wise.
I haven't been reading any other horror. I have not picked up a comic book in ages.
The book Bullet Train is really great, and everyone should read it. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know, but the book is a freaking roller coaster ride that'll take you like 2 days to read, and you'll be happy about it for like a week. Halloween's about candy as well as horror too, so that's your candy.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, candy. Candy's also good too. Maggie, if you're not reading anything, what are you watching? You watching any good horror movies?
I haven't started my horror movies. So the thing of it is that I don't really like watching scary movies. It's just in October that I do it because it's thematically appropriate. And I'm kind of in the mood for it, but just this month out of the whole year. Otherwise, I don't watch them. But I have been getting a kick out of Midsummer Murders, which is a delightfully quirky British police murder mystery kind of show. I've been watching it on Amazon Prime. There's 20-some seasons of it, and the main character changes actors.
Tell me about the comic book episode.
Yeah, there is an episode where there's this local anonymous comic book writer who dispenses their comic books by leaving them in a box out in the cemetery, and then someone from the village comes and gets it, and they sell them around the village or whatever. But basically, the comic book is all about local politics and the local characters. And at one point in the episode, the detective sergeant is like, well, if they destroyed all the copies of the comic book but this one, then that one would be worth a lot of money. A small fortune, in fact, I think is how he described it. And I was like, in what world would a locally published comic book about local people be worth anything more than 50 cents?
It wasn't even that. It was the one that they were expecting to come out. It was it would be the equivalent of a new issue that hadn't come out yet. If all of those issues but one had been destroyed. Yeah. It would be worth a small fortune.
I'm like, no, it wouldn't be.
Because how would you know? Because, I don't know.
But the thing about Midsummer Murders is that the things that they choose to make odd and quirky are in and of themselves kind of funny. So I've actually been really enjoying the show. I also like British humor and British things, so I just get a kick out of it.
Oh, What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah, there's What We Do in the Shadows, absolutely. And Only Murders in the Building is also another good one.
That is.
I've heard about that one. I might have to watch that.
That is so good.
We haven't watched the new season of either of those shows yet, but we will starting, I think, this weekend. Only Murders in the Building is amazing.
Quick question about that, What We Do in the Shadows. Because we just were flipping through trailers of things the other day, and we saw the trailer for the movie. And what relation is the movie to the book? Is the series just a continuation, or is it mash the movie to mash the TV show?
They live in the same universe.
Right.
Yes.
I think it's kind of like MASH in a sense would be sort of an allied.
Yeah, so mash the movie and mash the TV show. It's kind of it's
sort of.
Well, no.
The thing is, I've not seen MASH the movie.
Yeah.
But I've seen a lot of the show.
Okay.
They live in the same universe. There is 1 or 2 episodes where you see the people from the movie in the TV show. That's about it.
No. MASH the movie takes place on Earth 2, and MASH TV shows on Earth 1. And, but Radar O'Reilly exists in both universes. He's the one who, for some reason,
he's the American Chavez of.
We have Justice Society on one,
or
Justice America on the other one, but both of them have Batman. So, you know.
He's the cat that walks through the wall back and forth. He's like, okay, meow, meow, meow.
Or is it like the DC Milestone crossover where Radar just goes to sleep in one universe and wakes up in the next, having the same job in both?
Possibly.
Knowing Radar,
he's
that would explain why he's able to tell when something's about to happen.
Oh, even better. Oh, or even worse.
I like listening to a lot of other different podcasts, and I love We Hate Movies. And for every Halloween or every October, they do their spooky movies or they do their horror movies. The main feed is the ones they hate or they have maybe not like as much, but they always on their Patreon, they have their We Love movies. And this year they covered the original Halloween from 1978, and just listening to them talk about it, I forgot how much I enjoyed that movie. I
love that movie.
It is
so well
done.
One
of the best slasher movies ever, and it's
with the least amount of actual slashing on screen and camera.
Yeah, and Jamie Lee Curtis is fantastic, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful movie.
So well done.
We will watch Freddy versus Jason before the end of the month. I'm trying to get Maggie.
You know, something that actually is a lot better and spookier than I thought is the original radio broadcast of War of the Worlds. Is that what I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
Where they...
Because
I hadn't heard it. I think we listened to it last Halloween, and it's available on YouTube. And I was like, well, yeah, if I was in the moment hearing this, then I would probably be pretty freaked out by it.
That's a great suggestion. I am definitely filing that away for this year because I've never listened to it either. That would be awesome.
Yeah. It really is very cool, and it's scarier than you'd think it would be. I enjoyed it. I liked it quite a bit.
He played Orson Welles. He played with expectations so much. There was so much about it that didn't actually expect to cause a panic, but he was like, it was kind of a, but what if I could? But it's such a realistic show that they're cutting in from. It's just they're doing a symphony orchestra play. This was a common thing on at the time. You could be flipping channels and hearing a symphony, and you're going, "Oh, that sounds nice," and then it cuts in. Because there were only a couple of times throughout it where they announced this is a dramatization. Mm-hmm. Yet it was the only era of communication where that thing could have worked.
You missed it. Yeah, now in the age of all spoilers all the time. Oh, there's a property that's going to come out in 5 years. Well, here's all the spoilers for it already.
They tried it in the 80s. I mean, there was something that was so obviously trying to do this. It was called Special Bulletin. It was a fake, we interrupt this broadcast thing where they were showing you a World War III scenario unfolding. It was around Halloween. It was in the 80s. Didn't work. It had very low ratings.
Finish going around here too. Tim, anything else that you wanted to add or throw onto the burning fire of corpses that this Halloween group has created?
That's a good question. Is there anything else to throw onto the fire and watch it burn? There's nothing I'm really getting into right now, but I will give a shout out to a series of YouTube videos called Channel 58. Have any of you heard about that? Very small, not a whole lot of them made. If I'm remembering correctly, they're produced by cartoonist Chris Straub, and he was doing, but what they're done is it is like watching that old late night local TV station, and it would break in with like little news flash text bulletins, but between the news things, if you watch carefully enough, there'll be like static, and then all of a sudden you'll see something, and it goes back to static. It's like, what the heck? And the text bulletins makes it sound like that something is going on, but they can't give you all the details yet. And then it's like the static is interrupted by, is that a face? Is that a monster? Or what am I seeing? And you don't really know. It's really plays with suspense and you seeing things that may or may not be there. It's a great little series. It's been a few years since he's done a new episode, but Chris does other cartoons. One of his long run series is Chainsaw Suit. It's a daily gag thing, but like one of the gags was a guy who made a chainsaw suit because, that's what you do. But so he has a great little cartoons art style. I love his stuff, but he was playing around with this as well. And he also has a comic strip series that unfortunately is also kind of gone defunct called Brood Hollow. That was also a very horror sort of series. I loved Brood Hollow, but it was a challenge to keep that story going. It was a taking a big challenge to do that. But those are fun things. If you can find them out there, they're worth a little look.
That's Chris Straub of multiple D&D stuff fame.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you said that name, I'm like, Chris Straub, no way. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's from Acquisitions Incorporated.
Yes, it is.
Chris Straub. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
So yeah, he does D&D too.
That's right. That's him.
I found it, and I've hit one of them. One's happened to be playing on the YouTube on my phone right now silently. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It just starts off like, oh, a minor weather alert, and then like there's static coming in, and then like the alert's now like a red alert's like, do not look out, do not look outside, stay inside, and then all of a sudden the alert gets changed, says, go outside now, all is safe, everyone go outside, look at the moon now.
That makes me think of...
And it's like, ooh.
Welcome to Night Vale.
Welcome to Night Vale, yeah, very much so. Very welcome to Night Vale-ish.
Cool.
It's got, I'm watching it, it's very much a Lovecraft type feel almost. Because you don't really see, you don't know. It's almost like this whole thing, like, with Lovecraft, because everyone faints, and the thing goes away.
Given it's Chris Straub, I am not surprised. Chris Straub's Lovecraft appreciation is well known.
If his D&D character is any indication, yeah, I'd say he's pretty heavily influenced by Lovecraft, yeah.
So, yeah, I'll be watching more of that later. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
Jeff.
Rick.
You got anything for us?
Not really.
Okay.
I appreciate your honesty.
Thank you guys all very much.
He's very forthright.
I mean, I could form out an outro real quick that would bring back Mephisto.
No, that's quite all right. You can just keep your gastrointestinal mistakes to yourself. Don't share them with the rest of the class. We don't need that. Thank you all for listening. Before we wrap up here and before Jeff lets loose his own Mephisto dinner surprise, once again, Al, what's your show that people can find you on?
Resurrections and Adam Warlock and Thanos podcast. It's all about, the Marvel characters Adam Warlock and Thanos. I mean, come on, it's in the title, people. Don't be dumb, Rick. Come on.
Hey, it takes me forever to write that out whenever I have to do your thank you to Al Sedano, and I'm like, oh god, I gotta type this all out.
He always misspells stuff too, and then I have to copy edit it.
How do you spell Thanos?
I
don't know how to spell Thanos.
Yeah, and
so just type in Adam Warlock or Thanos.
And Adam Warlock and the Nose Production.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah, just type Adam Warlock or Thanos, whatever search box you use for podcasts. At Adam Thanos Pod on Twitter. And also, actually, more relevant to this, if you go to the Magazines and Monsters podcast feed, he's doing a Bronze Age. He has a show called Bronze Age of Horror, where he's covering different horror books. And if you look for any episodes he has talking about Werewolf by Night, you'll find me there too. We've been doing that for a little bit now.
Nice. John and Maggie, pimp your wares.
That's us. We are MWC podcasts, standing primarily for Married with Comics, but all sorts of other stuff that suits the fancy. Right now, we are mostly doing deep dive into Dragonlance. It's where myself and Clinton Robinson from Coffee and Comics, as well as Lane from Batman Books, The Dark Knight and Beyond, and John M. Wilson and I are reading through the book Dragons of Autumn Twilight from the Dragonlance Chronicles and talking about that in an incredibly deep way. This is to prepare us for our D&D game that we all play on Sunday that takes place in the same world. Besides that, Maggie and I also appear over on Transformers Chronicles with Pat and Delvin.
Hi, Delvin.
And we also appear with John M. Wilson on Transformers Chronicles The Rod Pod.
No, just the Rod Pod, I think, for that one, isn't it? Not Transformers Chronicles?
It's technically either, but we don't usually talk about it. Yeah.
I guess if I'm not going to be on the show, I shouldn't really say.
Yeah, and still waiting for my invitation to this D&D game. Yeah, still waiting.
TikTok gonna wait a clock.
Tim Price. Tim Price, Mr. Podcrasher.
Yes, you can find me on the Outcasters, a Batman and the Outsiders podcast on the Right On Network, WON, spelled with a W because the best way to spell right is with a W. And you can find that show on Twitter at Bat Outcasters. You can find me on Twitter at TimPrice17. You can also hear me on the Right On Network on our Batgirl Cassandra Cain podcast. So all sorts of fun goodness over there. I pop up on other things on the Right On Network as well because, pod crashing.
It's in the name.
It's what's for breakfast.
Right on.
Jeff, where can people find you besides next to me?
Usually right next to Rick, and trying to sleep from time to time at my own house in between construction. But if you wanted to listen to us, you could hear me and Rick on Jeff and Rick Present Unpacking the Power of Power Pack, where we cover the most underappreciated comic books of the 80s while absorbing alcohol and talking about some kids that have superpowers. It's a lot of fun. We drink beers, we talk about beers, we talk about the comics. We have since sadly kind of moved past the Power Pack because we're doing it in a chronological order of things, and now we're covering just appearances that they're in. So we're doing a heavy run in the Fantastic Four right now. So
we are in the thick of the Hickman run of Fantastic Four, and it is a nice place to be, I must say.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Rick also has another location that you can find him. Rick, where else could they find you at?
You can find me at Monthly Monday Movie Muckabout on the Long Box Crusade Network. That's where I talk about movies. I think coming up, we've got The Public Enemy. That's going to be coming up in October. Talking that with one of my coworkers, Angela. So we're going back in time for that one. That's all we got, I guess. Anybody else have anything they want to say besides bye?
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
I think there's only one more thing to say, actually.
Okay, I'm out of here.
Hey,
Dear God,
girl.
that was either Mephisto or Jeff. One of the two. Oh my God, that smell!
Gonna crack a window, and on my way there, I'm just gonna run out the door. Bleep bloop.
Happy Halloween, everybody!
Happy Halloween. I mean, I'm not what one would call a Man-Thing fan,